Hi guys, and welcome to the Cloud Evening and Learn, I suppose. My name is Joseph, and I'll be your moderator for this evening. I'd like to introduce Jackson. He's going to be presenting this evening. And the topic of conversation for this evening is implementing identity protection with Microsoft Cloud. Yeah, if you have any questions or queries, just put it in the chat, and I'll make sure to stop Jackson mid conversation, and we'll get them answers over. So, Jackson, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Yeah, for me, welcome everybody. I'm Jackson Felden, actually one of the members from the Cloud Lunch and Learn. Today is a special day for me to be talking from home, I can say. And yeah, today is going to be all about identity. Usually, when things happen, the hackers try to break in. Identity is one of the first things they try to break. And yeah, I've been working for 30 years in the IT, let's say in the IT sector. And for the last, I think, 3 or 4 years, is pretty much my focus has been security. At the moment, I'm one of the senior consultants working for Avanade, and my day-to-day is to deal with some complex projects and help our customers out there to be more secure. That's pretty much it. And this is why today I'm here to share a bit of my experience.
Brilliant. Perfect, Jackson. Thanks very much. Without further ado, we'll get the show on the road. And again, as I was saying, if you've any questions or queries, please put them in the chat, and we'll get this going. 2 seconds.
Okay, yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah, anyway, as I just said, I'm Jackson Felden. Please connect with me on the LinkedIn. If you just search for Jackson Felden LinkedIn, you can connect. And we can take from there. And as I said, today is going to be all about protecting identity, not only on the cloud. I have a couple of very important advice to give when it comes to identity, in general. And hopefully, you enjoy this evening with us today. Yeah, as I said, I'm one of the senior consultants. My day today is to deal with some complex environment, all about security. I'm a MVP on the Microsoft Enterprise Mobility as well. And if you want to learn some more bits on the security world, you can find me on YouTube. I have a little channel, and then all the things, the challenges I'm kind of facing on my day to day, helping the customers to get better. I do some recordings as well, and you can, just go there, and if you could subscribe my channel, I'll be more than happy. Yeah, sorry for the very busy slide. I've been working officially. I started in 1991. My first experience was about a Novell network, and then I started with servers with NT version 4, and then my life has been all about Microsoft since NT4, Windows 2000, 2003, and so on. My experience on cloud, officially, I started around 2013 when I implemented and started learning about Office 365. And then around 2015, I started my first experience around Azure. But let's say I'm really happy to say pretty much since 2019, my life has been all about security, cloud security using Microsoft tools. And the plan for today is to share a little bit of, my experience on that. Okay, the agenda for today. First, I want to share a single slide about what's the current challenges when it comes to identity, and then a single slide as well. Just start with the basics. Sometimes, companies and people out there, they start thinking some very complex, security implementation, and they forget to do the basic thing, as implementing multi-factor authentication, so on. A 1 minute thing around zero trust. Probably this is not a new subject for you anymore. Zero trust is a whole model when it comes a framework when it comes to security. And then I just want to do a kind of quick intro on the identity, and then protecting identities best practice. Again, based on my experience, based with some kind of documentation from Microsoft, I have a couple of slides as a best practice. Anybody, should follow. Some of the best practice is, even should be used for us as a, end user, at home, but otherwise, all for companies. And then I want to talk about basically three Microsoft products that help companies to take to the next level when it comes to the identity management. The first one is the Azure AD Identity Protection, and then I will move into the Microsoft Defender for Identity. That's a very important one, especially if you want to have a kind of deep dive understanding what's happening with the domain controllers on on-prem servers. Anything weird happening in there is pretty much very difficult to find key elements related to security using event viewer. Probably the pain to find the right information using event viewer. This is why Microsoft released the Defender for Identity. And then the last one is all about privilege identity management, or PIM. It means administrators or anybody doing any admin role should activate those, let's say, those permissions only when needed. Okay, and instead to be a full administrator 24 hours a day, we should be an end user. And then when I need to, I don't know, to configure Intune, or maybe I need to do some management on the security.microsoft.com, and then basically I can elevate my permissions for that particular time, maybe 2 hours I need, and then after that the system will downgrade to a normal user again. Anyway, that's the plan for hopefully the next kind of 45 minutes, 1 hour. And just a quick thanks to Microsoft as well to keep sharing lots of nice content when it comes to slides. And I took some of the slides from some of the kind of brilliant presentations, and I'm going to replicate here in my presentation as well. Okay, let's get started. Straight away, let's go to the point. In terms of the current challenges today, talking about identity, I know everybody has challenge, but talking specifically about identity, as you can see, based on Microsoft research, there has been like 300% increase in identity attacks. And the problem is, if we don't have the right configuration, the right tool to track and to understand what's happening, plus train the end user and so on, things can be very complicated to keep a nice security level when it comes to the identities. To give an idea about the complexity, especially when it comes to the whole Microsoft cloud solution, there is a 30 billion Azure AD daily authentication request, from Microsoft. And of course, it's a hard work for Microsoft to keep everything up and running in a safe, let's say, state. But for us as let's talk as a customer, as a end user, is brilliant, because everything that is happening, Microsoft is using powerful tools like machine learning, artificial intelligence, and so on. And by the time, I don't know, there is an attack happening in Australia, and then later is moved to, I don't know, to India, and then eventually by the time somebody comes, in my case I'm talking here from Ireland, and then eventually the same attack with the same authentication trick is coming to one of my accounts from Office 365 here in Ireland. Basically, after a few minutes, I could say, a few seconds, Microsoft will already understand how that thing works and could flag for me straight away as something malicious. And I've done nothing, just about that learning that Microsoft has with the 30 billion authentication requests every single day. For us, as I'm not sure about your role, but if you are in charge of the security to manage all the infrastructure when it comes to identity, things can be complicated enough. If we start looking from the left, we still have our on-prem Active Directory infrastructure, where of course we need domain controllers, high availability, complex passwords, and so on. But and then those things most likely we are replicating for Azure AD, and then from Azure AD we can expand for some other customers and partners, bring your own device, and then all the other public cloud suppliers or providers out there, Google, Amazon, and all of those things. This is why Microsoft now has some good tools to extend let's say the security capability, not only on Microsoft, but to extend to Google solution, to SAP, to AWS, and so on. And then the challenge for anybody looking after the security infrastructure is, how can we manage and maintain a good level of security in this complex landscape? And then this is why I'm here today, hopefully to give you some information to help you in some decisions and to go back to your company and review the configuration. Okay, but starting from the really basic, thing, that's again a very nice slide from Microsoft. Could be 2 years old or so on, but I'm sure it's still relevant. Saying 98% of the attacks can be prevented with the basic configuration. Basic in these days. For example, make sure we have a nice anti-malware, antivirus. We apply the least privilege access. I will talk about that later and give you some more information about that. If somebody doesn't need to be administrator, and that person shouldn't be member of the admin group. Enable multi-factor authentication. Again, there is a slide coming up. Probably you are aware about that anyway. Just by the time you enable multi-factor authentication, you can remediate, if I have a good memory, pretty much 99% of the attacks on the accounts. Just by the time you enable multi-factor authentication, make sure you have the latest version. Don't miss any Windows updates, server updates, Linux updates, application updates, as well, and protect your data as well with backups and using all the Microsoft tools as well. Okay, today let's explore what would be the other maybe 2%, and talk about identity. But again, a very simple slide. And to be honest, as I told you before, sometimes I see some companies out there, some users out there, really worried about some complex things, and they forget to do the basic homework. Those 4 or 5 elements you can see in here. Anyway, 2 minutes intro on zero trust, and then let's dive straight into the identity. Probably you came across already zero trust. It's not a really new framework anymore, but if you have been working in IT maybe for the last 15 years, 20 years and so on, let's say 20 years ago things used to be much easier because we had a good firewall, we had the public network, private network. We used to do the segmentation with the firewall, and then we had that kind of peace of mind, thinking, yeah, anybody physically on my local network is protected because anything that goes out, comes in, is fully managed by the firewall, and we are kind of sorted. These days, things are totally different. The data is not only on the local server anymore. The data is on local servers, is on the multi-cloud, is on Google Box, Google Drive, and so many places. And then this is why the zero trust was brought into life, to represent a framework where nothing is trusted by default. It doesn't matter if you are physically working from your organization, or working from home, or working from a Wi-Fi from the airport. It doesn't matter. Initially you are kind of flagged as not trusted, and then using dynamic policies, I will explain in a few minutes how it works. You need to kind of be compliant, make sure the minimum security or the good security level is applied to your device, to your, let's say, identity. And then if everything goes well, you can, from your identity, log on your device, and your device can start, basically get access to data, apps, infrastructure, and so on. Okay, in a very high level. Today, what I'm going to do is to talk about identity only, but in order to elevate the security level for the whole organization, of course, this I could call pillars. Okay, these 6 pillars should be kind of taken consideration. But today, let's do a kind of a deep dive or a good dive into the identity only. Okay, let's get in. Okay, let me now, on the upcoming slides, share some kind of good practice when it comes to protecting identity. Okay, some of them maybe you already came across, some of them hopefully you have implemented already, but I'm here to provide some additional information. Okay, the first one, and I'm sorry for some of you, it could be kind of basic enough in these days, but I need to emphasize one more time. Please make sure, years ago, I remember some clients, they used to enable multi-factor authentication only for administrators or maybe only for some key users. In these days, every single user should have multi-factor authentication enabled. And as you can see in here, yeah, actually I was wrong. Before I said 99%, but actually 99% of the attacks over identity can be prevented just by the fact we enable multi-factor authentication. I'm not going to talk, let's say, do a deep dive into multi-factor authentication. There are different flavors you could enable on Microsoft. Multi-factor authentication using, the Microsoft Authenticator, and then every time when you try to log on, you need to confirm, just give an approve or maybe type a code. We can enable using Windows Hello, FIDO2. I forgot I have somewhere my FIDO2. That is a key where you can kind of, connect into your device. And unless you have that key, nobody can use your account or connect with your account. And other kind of, biometric technology as well. But yeah, anyway, just keep in mind in these days, and I'm not only talking about multi-factor authentication for your Microsoft account. If you haven't done, go there, Facebook, Google, whatever are LinkedIn, whatever are the other main accounts you are using, make sure you enable multi-factor authentication to kind of, remediate those 99.9% of attacks over the identities. Yeah, guys, another thing, I think I started looking the passwordless maybe 2 years ago already, or 3 years ago. That time was something very slow, kind of, picking up. But as probably or I'm sure sorry, password is a headache for everybody. It's a headache for end users, it's a headache for the company when it comes to companies, when it comes to the help desk, because users forget passwords. If they keep forgetting, they will write the password down, stick on the monitor or on the desk, and so on. It is a headache for everybody. And then Microsoft is doing a good job, started maybe 2-3 years ago, moving things to passwordless. As the name suggests, is when I'm logging in on my system or my application, I don't need password at all anymore. I can benefit from the Windows Hello, and by the time I'm logging in, I just need to type my, just use my face or biometric, fingerprint, or could be even a PIN. It's not a password, it's a PIN. I had this question before. I thought, how come a PIN that is only maybe 6 digits, 6 numbers, is more secure than a password that could be, a complex password with, 10 characters. The thing is, the way it works is different. The PIN is only assigned to your device. And then it means even if somebody knows my PIN from, from Japan, and somehow try to use my PIN, it doesn't matter, because that bad guy doesn't have my laptop. Okay, and then the PIN in this point of view is assigned to your device, and then unless the bad guy out there doesn't know your PIN and doesn't have your laptop or your device to log on, it doesn't work. And then the second option here is the passwordless authentication using, just a number. Probably, you are familiar with that already. If you have a Microsoft account, Microsoft Live account, when you provide your name, instead to type the password, just get the authentication. On the screen, will pop in the number, for example, here, 67. You need to get your Microsoft authentication. Just tap 27, select 27, sorry, 67. Need to change my glasses. And then you are in. And some companies out there, they are, they think FIDO2 is safer. There are different flavors for that. Could be a USB key with a fingerprint reader. And then again, unless you have that key and you tap your finger, nobody's able to log on. And please remember, the FIDO2 is not a Microsoft standard. This is a kind of open standard compatible with Google, Facebook, all the other big providers out there as well. Okay. Anyway, the message I want to say is, if you haven't done any kind of more deep dive or any proper study on passwordless, I would say the time is now. Go and do the implementation. That can be interesting to, again, to protect identities. Okay. The next step is after I wouldn't say after, but with the multi-factor authentication, maybe the passwordless authentication as well. As I said, from the zero trust, the system, your organization, your system shouldn't trust anybody. Doesn't matter the name, doesn't matter if that person is working physically from the office or from home. It doesn't matter. Every single access or every single logon should be checked, should be checked to see if, for example, that device is compliant with the minimum security requirement. I think I have a next slide, especially if you guys are not too familiar with conditional access. Just stick with me in kind of 2-3 minutes. I will do a quick demo, and that is very, very important. The combination with multi-factor authentication and other, let's say, elements, we need to plug together. It means when the users are connecting to the system will, if you have the right license, especially Azure ADP2, the system is able to analyze how risky that user is, how risky the login is. And then from there, it will allow the user to connect the system, or maybe block the user or block the login straight away. Or maybe, okay, that doesn't sound that great. On top of the authentication, the system will request the user to reset the password, for example, things like that. Very easy, guys, very easy. Let's say another good practice could be implement a conditional access saying, what, it's, depends the organization. If there is an organization, let me stick here with the Irish, Irish country. Let's say every single employee work physically from Ireland, and nobody should work outside of Ireland. That's really easy to implement. We just need to create a conditional access based on location and say, okay, Jackson, Joseph, and whatever is the team are able only to log on if the request comes from Ireland. If the request comes from any other country, block straight away. Just doing like that. Maybe if people are working from different countries, we could have different policies, and to say, yeah, you know what, because the administrators, our admin guys, they are based in Ireland, there is no need for them to connect from any place outside of Ireland. Okay, for those guys only, let's set a location to to block any login coming from outside of Ireland, things like that. And the last thing, before I run a quick demo, when it comes to the non-compliant, this is very important as well. I want to make sure every time a user is connecting, every time a user is connecting to the system, there is a minimum security requirement that will be checked. For example, the device must be running Windows 10, build, I don't know, 1903. The antivirus must be running. The antivirus must be fully updated, and Defender must be there. I could, add 5 or 6 elements. Eventually, if one of those elements, for example, the firewall is off on that device, the user is going to be the connection is going to be blocked, and until the user remediates the firewall, the user can't log on. Those things. I will do a quick demo now, and then it's better to
Jackson,
see.
can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, just before you go into that demo, BJ has a great question just in relation to, I presume, the location. So the question is, if the user is behind a VPN, are they still traceable?
Okay, yeah, very good question. Yeah, because in this case, when I'm talking when I'm talking about the location is based on public IP, and then it means if the user connects via VPN and the public IP from that VPN is is an Irish public IP, and then the user it will be fine for the user to log on. The system is able to catch up, to catch users connecting from those, how does it call those
Yeah,
torrent,
torrents.
IP
Yeah, it's
or
like NordVPN or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
those things. Yeah, exactly. And then I remember because when I'm kind of helping our clients out there, and sometimes I need to go over, the help the SOC team to identify some threats, and yeah, those are straight away kind of catched by the system. Yeah, good
Per-
question. Yeah, by the way. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I'll let you get back to it.
Go man, yeah, no problem. Okay, guys. Yeah, okay. Last slide, and then I will jump for a demo. As you know, if somebody eventually breaks into the network using an end user account, of course that's bad. Of course it's bad. But because an end user with no, let's say, extended permission, it will be a little bit more work for the hackers, to escalate that users. There is ways to do that, using tools, hacker tools available, but it's a little bit of more trouble. We really need to pay attention and do the maximum protection we can for our kind of privilege accounts, administrator, sorry, super users, and those guys. And then some of the things we can do for those accounts, let's call admins, to the admins account, is to say, you know what, those guys can only log on, and this is done via conditional access. I will show now in 2 minutes. Those users can log on only if the device is marked as compliant. Okay, as I just said a few seconds ago, antivirus should be there, firewall must be on, all the patches must be updated. It's a kind of good security level. And then I could say, of course, that depends the organization. But if the organization is using a hybrid environment where the Windows 10 is domain joined in a local Active Directory and then replicated for Azure AD. This means an Azure AD hybrid domain join. Yeah, a user must be physically working from one of those devices. Okay, otherwise, again, if somebody try to log on as Jackson from whatever the country, let's say America, Canada, or so on, even if those guys, they know my password, uh, but because that device is not enrolled into Intune, is not compliant, and is not let's say my company device, yeah, that user won't be able to log on. Okay, anyway, yeah, if we combine, there are much more to come. But if we combine, let's say, multi-factor authentication in a good set of conditional access, I'm sure we can elevate the security level from here to there. Anyway, guys, again, some of you could be already familiar with with conditional access, but especially if you are kind of new into the business, let me give a good understanding how it works. Yeah, anyway, if you are starting from admin.microsoft.com, that's a kind of traditional place to start from Office 365, Microsoft 365, just go down over the Azure Active Directory. Okay, and then if you click from there, you can click in here, then, okay, Azure Active Directory, click in there again, and then the place to go is on security. Yeah, that's the place. And then finally, conditional access. Okay, just click in here, conditional access. Okay, because this is not my company, setup, of course, is my own lab. And here I have a simple policy. Let me create from the scratch. Click here, click on add. Now, whatever the name, maybe, look, location based for admins, whatever the name you want. I want to create a policy. My administrators can only log on from Ireland, for example. Okay, that's fine. Here is the place where I can specify this policy, okay, this specific access policy for nobody, for all the users, or for, some of the users. In this case, I want now to select users, and now I can, let's say, just my pretend story, let's say Adele and Alex, they both are my administrators. Okay, that's fine. Let me select them. Now I could, talk about apps and other bits, but the place I'm looking for now, if I go to conditions, there is a bunch of conditions here. I will explain in a few minutes. User risk level, very important. But for now, let me stick with locations. Click on location, and now I want to set to any location to all trusted locations. Trusted locations is, I still need to show how to do that. I can go to another part of the configuration and add all my trusted locations. Could be, for example, let's say my company has an office in Dublin, London, and Paris. I could get those public IP, add as trusted, and then I'm sorted when you are connecting from there, and then you are okay. Otherwise, you couldn't log on. Or in this case, I can come here. Yeah, in my case, I have a single configuration done so far, only for Ireland and France. I still need to show how to do that. Okay, let's say my administrators, they work from Ireland or France. That's fine. Okay, select, and that's it for now. Now I can go to grant. Okay, and then here's the place where I can say, for example, block. Yeah, if there is any access login request coming from Paris or Ireland, is going to be blocked, okay, straight away. But in my case, I want to make sure, and to make things even, let's say, safer, yeah, those guys must be physically in Dublin or Paris. They must be working from a compliant device, and they must be using a device that is a hybrid domain join. Okay, then they can log on. Otherwise, they won't be able to log on. Now, of course, it can be a little bit dangerous. I'm going to talk to have a break the glass account on my next step. But for now, here is a place where I could, initially, especially guys, if you're not too confident, this whole story is a bit new for you. I would say for the moment, initially set as a report only for you to test, for you to kind of, first learn and double check if the result you are expecting, is working, and then you go and switch to on. Okay, let me just double check. Sorry, I need to select first. Sorry about that. Oh my goodness, not sure if I lost the configuration. Oh, okay. Compliant and hybrid. Okay. Now select. Yeah, that's fine. Let me just double check again. Yeah, only for those users that don't want to, everybody. And then finally, that's it, finally create. And then as you can see, we can create multiple policies. If there is a need, a policy only for admin, another policy only for, I don't know, the sales team, another policy for, the directors, and so on. Okay, that's the way to configure. Just to connect with what's coming up later, if I click in here, and then go to conditions, and then go, yeah, guys, as you can see, user risk level, okay, click in there, and then I could say, I could have a policy only for the high risky users. Okay, high risky users, for example, is a user, I still need to explain, where, the leaked credentials were detected. I still need to explain, and then if Microsoft detects leaked credentials for Jackson, at contoso.com, the user is set as a risky user, and then I could have a policy saying the user can't log on at all. Okay, if the user is set as risky, can't log on, or can log on only from, I don't know, Dublin, or whatever is the story. It's the same story as well as a risky sign in. Okay, risky sign in could be, yeah, Jackson logged on successfully 9 o'clock from Dublin, and then, I don't know, let's say 30 minutes later, there is another login coming for Jackson, but coming from China, for example. And then it means, yeah, that is an impossible travel time, because I can't be in Beijing 2 hours after being in Dublin. And then that authentication can be flagged as high risk, and then the user won't be able to log on. Okay, some really fancy controls we can implement from here. Anyway, guys, that's a bit of the story when it comes to, let me just go back to here. That's a bit of the story when it comes to the conditions, the policies we can create. And of course, always keep in mind to have an additional protection for the accounts like admin accounts or the highly privileged accounts where you can have a restricted policy for those guys. Okay. But I think the next slide now. Yes, guys, the problem is I've been helping customers, for the last past of years. Sometimes they get kind of, too enthusiastic with the conditional access. They set the configuration too tough or too rough. And then what's happening is the following. Eventually, the user is locked out, or everybody is locked out, including the administrator. And then if there is a bad condition that could avoid the administrator to log on, the question is, okay, how can you revert the configuration if your policy doesn't allow to log in? And then you are in trouble. I need to say the only solution is to call Microsoft and hope for the best. Yeah, there is no other solution. This is why, guys, do a bit of additional research. There is a nice, maybe I can just add the link later on after my presentation. This recording will be available on YouTube. I can add the link there. But if you search for configured an emergency access account, break the glass, you will find a kind of nice article from Microsoft. In the top of the tip of the iceberg here is you need to have one or two users you can use if everything goes wrong. Okay, it means if you are building a couple of tough conditional access, make sure those conditional access don't affect this, let's say, two users. Okay, why? Because if things eventually as an emergency, you need to use them. A couple of things that can happen. For example, let's say you are using federation, okay, using the Active Directory Federation service, and then eventually your servers go down and you can't authenticate anymore. Yeah, and then you are in trouble. Okay, second, the administrators are set to use multi-factor authentication, but actually the phone used to do the multi-factor authentication is gone. Or even worse, maybe your operator that manage your mobile, the data is unavailable, a big thing happening with the mobile provider, and you can do the multi-factor authentication. Or again, the only person who used to be the global admin is gone from the organization. There was a big fight with the director, and the guy left and didn't tell the password to anybody. Or the last one, as you can see, some other crazy stuff that can happen. As I said, maybe a huge storm and the mobile phone is not working anymore. You can't authenticate. Anyway, the key message here is, of course, you need to implement. This is why I'm presenting this quick session today. You need to improve the security configuration. You need to set all the policies to make things harder for the guys. But please don't forget to have a kind of a plan B if everything goes well. Okay, one or two users with a very complex password. Nobody's using those guys unless there is a really a good excuse to use them, and leave them out of some of the configuration you are using to have a kind of plan B if needed. Okay, anyway, you can go to, there is a nice page from Microsoft where you can get the full picture, but pretty much this is the key message I want to share. Okay, now let's keep moving. Please, guys, pay attention. Of course, you need to have the right tool to do that. And then at the end, I will provide information about the tools. But please keep a good eye on those three. There are more, to be honest. Those three are interesting when you're doing the monitoring. A typical travel. I kind of gave the example already. Okay, 9 o'clock in the morning, I logged on from Dublin. In a few hours, few minutes later, there is a new login coming from Jackson as well, but coming from Australia. That really doesn't look good. Again, guys, I could connect via VPN, maybe, that's fine. But let's say, we don't have an office in Australia, nothing happens in Australia. And then, the system will flag that and make sure you keep your eye. Password spray, yeah, as you can see here on the screenshot. Password spray, the idea is the guys, instead to use the brute force, to go to a single user and then try, I don't know, maybe 100, 1,000 password spray is different. Get a single password, test maybe 100 users. Second password, 100 users. And then Microsoft can easily detect when people are trying, the technique called password spray, and then, you will be notified with that. And guys, a really interesting one is the leaked credentials. Initially, when I came across this one here, I was wondering, what's that thing? Microsoft is doing a good job in scanning, the dark web and, some bad websites out there where people sell credentials. And then by the time Microsoft finds a credentials, Office 365, sorry, that's wrong to say. By the time Microsoft finds Azure AD credentials for sale, let's say Jackson Felden at contoso.com, whatever is the tenant hosting Jackson Felden at contoso.com, the system will notify, the alert will pop in for that organization saying Jackson has leaked credentials. Probably, I don't need to tell you, is straight away, the SOC team who is managing, that and seeing that alert, straight away should disable the account, okay, or let's say reset the password as soon as possible, because that user credential with the password is out there for sale. Okay, 3 very important things. The SOC team should be, always up speed when it comes to training, and they should know what is the flow when they start, seeing those things happening in the organization. And guys, it happens. Okay, I already, as I said, worked with, helping some SOC team in some organizations out there. In typical travel, oh my goodness, that happens all the time. Password spray in leaked credentials, not very often, but it happens as well. And then, as I said, act fast to avoid, big surprises. Okay, the next one I can bet is not new for anybody in these days. Microsoft has been kind of, giving this advice for years. It means, don't use administrator to read emails. It means everybody should have a basic account only to read emails, only to work with kind of basic files. And when you need to do a more admin task, and then you should elevate your privilege. What I will give you some more information later. Okay. This is just a kind of the key message. I will show how you can, instead to have 2 users. Oh yeah, Jackson. Oh yeah, now I need to reset a password from somebody. Okay, let me log on with Jackson 2. Reset the password, log off, and then Jackson again. Of course, that is better than nothing. It's better than to use your high administrator. But I will show how you can use how you can escalate privilege, maybe for the next 30 minutes, and then after 30 minutes, the system will downgrade your privilege straight away, okay, without, log on, log off, and so on. Okay, stick with me. I will show in a few seconds how to do that. Guys, before talking about the product, I'm not sure if you are aware of this tool, really interesting. First of all, let's talk about the bad news. Okay, there is a software called, or a piece of bad software out there called WCE, and another one called PWDump7. And guys, believe or not, running those tools, they can retrieve the user password from the cached logins. Okay, it means if somebody can somehow get access to your device, run those softwares, they could kind of retrieve the password that is saved in cache. Okay, or save on your device. I know it's a headache for companies out there to come up with a plan. What should be the password for the local administrator for our 2,000 devices in our enterprise? And what should be the strategy to change those passwords and so on? And then a bunch of years ago, Microsoft released something called Local Administrator Password Solution, as you kind of can see. It's a long story, but let me give you the tip of the iceberg. Basically, with this tool, we can save the local admin password on Active Directory, okay, not locally, but on Active Directory. And that will avoid, or try, yeah, avoid is the right word, those tools to try to read the local passwords, because the password is not stored anymore on the local device, is stored on our kind of protected server. Okay, have a look, and of course, do some testing before implementing. That could be a good solution to remove the headache in terms of how should we manage the local administrators, passwords. Okay, that was pretty much part one from my presentation. Sorry for the high speed. Sometimes I kind of get too enthusiastic in here. And then, yeah, here is the kind of, the summary later on, or if you are watching now from YouTube, the recording, you can always pause, take some notes and so on. But yeah, anyway, that was some of the key elements in terms of some kind of implementation you should pay attention to kind of take the identity protection to the next level. Okay, now let's go to my second part. I think we have only kind of 15 minutes. Hopefully I can keep in 1 hour. Let me talk about 3 Microsoft products that will help yourself and your organization in terms of identity protection. Okay, the first one, as the name suggests, actually is the Azure AD Identity Protection. Okay, I don't like, to be honest, to talk too much about license, because license, they keep changing all the time. But again, unfortunately, this is not free for basic Office 365 subscription. You need to have Azure AD P2 at least, and some other bits. At least check Microsoft website. But the good thing is, some of the things I already told you, all of those things, from a typical travel, login, maybe anonymous IP addresses. Yeah, if the guys are trying to log on from those, how those VPN, bad VPN system, the system can detect and then flag those users as high risk. Unfamiliar sign-in properties, leaked credentials, password spray. Yeah, pretty much the things I've been talking to you already are part. Again, unfortunately, those detections, they don't happen if you don't have the right license. But if you do have, let me show you. The place to go is, hopefully I can remember, is here. Okay, let me go back to my Active Directory. Okay, sorry, Azure Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, sorry. And then if I go under security, yeah, there you go. Here's the place, okay? Identity protection. If I click in there, great. Okay, of course, guys, unfortunately, this is my own lab. It's not a kind of real company. I don't have too many things populated in here. But in a real organization, yeah, brilliant. I can basically here straight away to see what are or who are my high risk users. Okay, and then understand why they have been flagged as high risk user. Maybe the way they are behaving when it comes to using my using the network is not great, or the way they are logging in from different places. We can find from here. And the great thing is we can create a specific, on top of the other policies I already told you, we can implement the user risk policy. I can say, I want to assign to everybody, or I want to assign only for my admins and directors. And then from here, I could say, what? If those users listed here, everybody, or maybe, some of the users, they are flagged as risky users, I want to block them straight away. Okay. Or I would say, they can still log on, but, when they are logging on, they need to reset. Yeah, that's right. Reset the password just a way, because I want to make sure they know what is the old password, in order to make sure it is the user itself, not somebody, from a different place. Okay. We can create from here. Same story for the sign-in risk policy. As I told you before, there was a login from here, another login from a anonymous IP. If the elements used by the login, for example, one of the elements is the IP address, and the IP address is an anonymous IP address, that now not the user itself, but the authentication process will be flagged as risky sign in. And then from here, same story, I could say, you know what, let's block. If the not the user, but any sign in process is flagged as risky, and then the user, that authentication will be blocked. Or, okay, let's allow, but the user must go to the multi-factor authentication, to make sure the user, has the device to kind of double check the user is, himself or herself. Okay. Yeah, here, always nice. Again, I've been helping companies out there in order to detect who are, a daily report or weekly report, who are the risky users. Yeah, for me, not that great. My administrator was flagged as risky user, not that bad, medium level. But again, I could click in here and then user risk detection, click in there to try to understand. I think, yeah, the information is not here. Okay, yeah, maybe that happens, a while ago. But guys, in here, you will see why the user is flagged as risky. Why? Because here you will see the leaked credentials. Okay, guys are trying to sell on the web. This is why the user was flagged as risky user. Okay, that happens before when I was helping one of our customers. Yeah, same story. If I have any risky login, I will be, I'm not sure if I. Yeah, unfortunately, just a kind of a basic lab. I don't have all the elements. But anyway, guys, that's the place for you to go. Maybe check on your own organization if you have the license, or just click in here to see if the information is in there. Okay, you can get the risk users, get the risk sign in, and set up the configuration as well when it comes to what Azure AD should do when a user is flagged as risky or a sign-in is flagged as risky. Okay, that was kind of some information about Azure AD identity protection. Now, guys, moving on, very important. Okay, very important. If you really want to have a full X-ray, what's happening on your domain controllers when it comes to identity and logins, log off, and all of those things, the place to go is to implement and to pay. I'm afraid to say, to pay and to implement the Microsoft Defender for identity. Okay, the idea, yeah, it's better for me to give you some real examples, guys, because as I told before, and if you are an Azure, sorry, if you are a server guy or Active Directory, admin, you will know some information are available on the event viewer, but it's not user friendly. It's really kind of challenging for you to understand how critical the whole authentication, the whole Active Directory, is. In this case, you can see easily the kind of the posture. And guys, believe or not, even you can catch, thanks to the alerts that the system will bring, you can catch if there is any old protocol happening on the organization using clear text password. Okay, you can see like that an alert. You can see as well if some of the authentication, they are using impersonation as well between device and authentication. You can see if there is any old protocol used for authentication, like the LM. Oh my goodness, that's really old. The NTLM instead Kerberos. Kerberos is the new on-prem protocol. NTLM is very old. But if you have some old devices or so, some old applications, they could be using those old authentication protocols, and they are 20 years old already. You can catch easily, okay, with that. Some other things you can see as well, for example, messages. The system will give you the best practice, how to improve the posture. And please, I'm not talking now only about cloud. This is on your local domain controller. Stop legacy protocols. Yeah, there you go. From here, I should stop those legacy protocols. First, I need to understand why I'm still, using them. And then, I should disable those protocols. On the domain controllers, okay, unless the domain controller is used as a print server, okay, we should disable the print spooler. Yeah, and again, in order to get all this information in a central location, we need to install a sensor. Okay, there is a sensor that should be installed in every single domain controller to kind of collect all the information happening in there, and then present to combine this information with the cloud system, where you will have full visibility in your domain controller. Wow, that one is brilliant. I'm not sure if you are aware, for the Active Directory guys, I believe so. Um, ntds.dit basically is the Active Directory database. Okay, all the users, all the groups, all the kind of on-prem Active Directory is kind of hosted in a ntds.did. What I can see in here, a guy called Ardis basically took a copy, ntds copy.did, and actually is copying from domain controller 1. Here, the guy is copying from domain controller 2 and so on. That really doesn't look good, because, unless there is something really big happening on the server, there is no reason for us to kind of be copying this Active Direct database from the servers. And again, thanks to the Defender for Identity, the SOC team will see that straight away, and could kind of act immediately, I would say, to avoid any big surprise in the future. Okay, these are some of the detection, this case of if somebody is trying to steal data. And I would say, what sort of data? In this case, the whole Active Directory, Active Directory database. Okay, yeah, same story as I told you before. Here, just a screenshot. If a user is detected, somewhere out there on the dark web, they are selling that credentials. In this case, for this guy called Jeff, yeah, we can see straight away. Okay, from here. Okay, and some other activities as well. Every user is, let's say, there is a specific score for the user. In this case, 798. Why? Because the user is connecting a server via remote desktop. Maybe that's not part of his job, and this doesn't look good. There's been a mass download from that user. Maybe it's the guy will leave the organization, is kind of downloading loads of things before he goes. Doesn't look good. At least the SOC team or the IT, the security team, can have a bit of directions in terms of who should be investigated. Okay, from here. Okay, just do a quick recap, and then we are getting there. Okay, Microsoft Defender for Identity provides, and I need to agree, is an unmatched intelligence with all the data you can extract from the domain controllers. I never seen any other tool that can give you the kind of granularity of the information from the domain controller. And the idea is this information is kind of integrated into the cloud service, and then using the Defender for Cloud and Azure Active Directory, where you can see the whole picture from your organization. Okay, guys, and then the last one. Okay, we might be 2 minutes late. Okay, the last one, and then we are good to go for this session. Hopefully you are not too tired yet. Is the PIM, Privilege Identity Management. Again, brilliant tool. Pretty much all the enterprise organizations out there, they are using this tool. This is a good news. Not too much on my kind of experience on the small organization, medium size. But anyway, let me explain how it works. Basically, the idea is there is a kind of a basic user like me, Jackson. Okay, I can read emails, I can do my bits every day. But if I need to take my level, maybe I need to change the Intune configuration. Maybe I need to change the the Defender for Endpoint configuration, and so on. As I told you before, instead to log off and then log on with a different user, no, we can configure PIM, where when I need, here, just-in-time access, when I need additional access to make, let's say, admin changes, I can basically request that additional privilege. And then I will say, I think I have some screen coming up later, I can say I need that only for the next 30 minutes, or maybe it could be the next 4 hours. Is just in time and just enough access. because I could have different privilege. It could be Intune administrator, could be password reset, could be whatever is needed. And then when needed, the privilege I need, just enough access, and then I can start a request. Depending the configuration, the request will be auto approved, because people already know me, or maybe I am the administrator, and then by the time I push the button saying I want to request now, I don't know, Intune administrator, that thing is done straight away. Or what we can do is we can configure a kind of privilege admin workflow where my request goes to, I don't know, my manager or whatever is the person looking for the configuration. Say, oh yeah, it's Jackson. Oh yeah, I know today, this morning, Jackson needs to work for the next 2 hours on the Intune. Okay, I'm happy with that. Approve. And then basically I will be able to do the configuration that is needed. And the good news is, don't need to tell you, everything, okay, is auditable. Okay, everything, whatever is getting the access, whatever is requesting the access, is in there, and we can always, review. That's pretty much, the idea. I will do a quick demo before we go. Yeah, the PIM provides just in time, privilege, assign time bound. As I said, okay, I need access for the next 30 minutes or 1 hour or 8 hours, whatever. I could say, yeah, you know what? If you really want to get, that privilege, you need to go to the multi-factor authentication. Okay, of course, that is for users without multi-factor authentication. If I think yeah, that's right. Yeah, if I already, my early morning login was already with multi-factor authentication, then you don't need to do again. You need to provide a justification, and that depends. The workflow depends the configuration you implement. Actually, let me just quickly show you how it works.
Jackson,
Yes.
just before you go on there, Paco has a very good question here. I'll just read it out. Will Defender alert uh, an abusive PIM by a certain user?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Uh, Oh, very good question. I'm not too sure right now because, as I said, I've been working with PIM for a while. I never seen those alerts. If I got your question, yeah, if I got your question, is like maybe a user request. Does a request for escalation of privilege. Maybe
Mm.
when that is gone, does another request and does another request. Oh, very good question. I don't want to guess any answer. I don't know. I never came across, but maybe I was lucky because nobody was kind of doing that.
And then
Probably I need to
and
test
then
myself.
yeah, and then the follow on then I suppose just around the same question, just maybe a bit more meat on it is,
Hmm?
or will that count in the point system?
What you mean the point system? Oh
Uh,
no, 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 probably again, probably not, because this is legitimate,
cool.
unless. Yeah, unless again, let's say the user, because, okay, let me go one step back. Because Microsoft is all about machine learning and is all about artificial intelligence. I could say, I never seen, but I could say, if let's say Jackson, every day for, I don't know, maybe 3 hours, Jackson elevates the privilege to do the Intune work, for example. Okay, pretty much once a day, Jackson work for 2 hours to do the Intune work. And then let's say after a few days, Jackson is following that pattern. And then on the next week now, Jackson is requesting, maybe 3 times a day to be a Intune administrator. Again, I never seen, but because it's machine learning, now Jackson is in a different pattern from what happened up to now. Things are totally different. I think there is a chance where Microsoft could flag a kind of overuse of a PIM. The thing is, when we set the PIM configuration, the administrator can say the maximum amount of hours that window will be open. Okay, by default is 8 hours. The administrator could say, no, maximum is 2 hours. This is why the user maybe needs 2 hours and then another 2 hours, another 2 hours. Yeah, I never came across that. I never seen any alert, but again, could be coincidence because all the big projects I worked, nobody actually, did that for me to know the answer. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know exactly, what's happened, but I think there is a good chance thanks to machine learning and so on.
Perfect. Thanks for that,
Okay, guys,
Jackson. Yeah.
before we go, the last demo and then we are sorted. Yeah, here if you go to portal.azure.com, just search quickly for PIM, and yeah, there you go. Here is the place. Guys, as an end user, okay, let's say now Jackson is an end user, and now for the next 2 hours I need to work on Intune, and because I'm basic user, I need to elevate my permissions. What I need to do is click on my roles. Of course, to have roles, I think I have one here. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, there is a role as a global administrator. That's a past example. But as an end user, all the roles will be available here, and then say, oh yeah, global admin, Intune admin, compliance manager, and all the roles will be there. I would say, oh yeah, now I need global admin, and then I just click on activate the role, and then I need to fill out a small form. How much time do I need? Maybe a justification why I need that. I could need the ticket number and so on. And then I click OK. The privilege could be given for me automatically, or maybe, depends the configuration, go to a approval guy. And then, my manager needs to approve. This is the end user experience. Very simple, just go to my roles and then add the approval. But to build that configuration, the administrator first need to go to let's say Azure AD roles. Okay, click in here and then click on assign eligibility. Click in there. Yeah, guys, as you can see, loads of things are here already. You can build your own thing. Just quickly, let me search for security. Let's say I need to add one of my users to become time by time when needed security operator. Okay, let me select security operator. Now let me click on add assignment. Click in there. Now let me click on, I want to assign this thing to, let me just get something here. Lydia. Okay, Lydia is our person to do that. Sometimes click on select. That's fine. Settings. Okay, again, do I want to make that available for her as a permanent, or no, actually not? She could be one of the contractors, or maybe she is only covering holidays from one of my users, and then I could set here the specific time, and then click on assign. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, as you can see, Lydia was assigned to that role, and then Lydia, as an end user, now can request and kind of escalate her privilege. Okay, that's pretty much it. Sorry about the a small delay on the presentation. I think we got some questions already, and yeah, we'll see if there is another question. Otherwise, guys, thanks very much for stick with us and this this session. Hopefully you enjoy and you enjoyed and are walking away with some kind of bit of more knowledge on the whole identity world. Is there any other question, Joseph, just before
Yeah,
we finish up?
there's no other questions there unless some of the people just want to put something else into the chat apart from Pac was the last one, just in relation to the Defender alert one.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Cool.
good. I think
Yeah,
that's it for
definitely.
today, I would say.
Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure. And Jackson, I'm 100% convinced everyone from here will definitely gain like a lot more knowledge and I suppose scope into what we just went through. So again, thanks very much all. I really appreciate it. And look, we'll end it there. And as I said, it's available on LinkedIn and YouTube anyway. So
That's
thanks
right.
very much.
Don't forget our next session next Wednesday. Every Wednesday we are here. Okay. Okay, we
Perfect.
can finish the recording now. Okay, thanks
all.
everybody. See you next time. Thank you.
See you
Bye
next
bye.
time. Bye bye. Bye.